My name is June Link, and I'm a graduate member of the 40-Hour Teacher Workweek Club. I'm here to share with you today the four biggest takeaways that I had from the club. I teach seven different class periods in an eight-period day. And when you have multiple preps to take care of, it becomes difficult to know how to teach really well, maintain all of the planning and grading, and still have a joyful personal life. But with these different skills and different things I started implementing over time, I learned that it is possible. It is 100% possible to be an excellent educator and still have a happy, joyful, fun filled personal life. Before we get started, I want you to take a moment to write down your ultimate why. What is your biggest goal for wanting to teach more effectively in less time so that you can get home? Who or what needs more of you? As teachers, we are givers. We're always thinking about providing more for the people that we care about the most. For you, what does that look like? For me, it was spending more time with my children, spending more time with my husband. I really wanted to get outside and I wanted to get back my health and my fitness. What is it for you that is really important to you? Maybe you want to give more to the world of education. Maybe you want to join a club or write a book. What is it that is your ultimate why in this moment? Write it down and share it so that it becomes real, it becomes substantial. When we have these goals, we're more likely to drive for them and really find that success. In order to reach that goal, I want to share with you my aha moment that I had at school. But first, we got to go back to a job before I started teaching. We had a secretary that uh, she was in her, she had a very cushy office chair, and I had to go down and ask for a form that I needed for a customer. And I said, "Hey, can I have the form, please?" And she's sitting in her cushy chair with her cute glasses, and she said, "Not my job." So I'm thinking to myself, okay, all right, so whose job is it? Do you know where I can get this paper? And she says, don't know, not my job. And it turns out, well, it really was her job. I did get my form, but her sassy attitude, but her carefree spirit really stuck with me. There was a day early on in my teaching career when I got to school after this huge snowstorm and it drifted up all the snow on the sidewalk. I'm shoveling the sidewalk to get down to the door to make sure the teachers behind me didn't have to worry about the snow. And I get inside and I start seeing the lockers and the snow clothes are falling out of the lockers. So I'm trying to shove it all back in and get the lockers to shut. And I stop and chat with a group of teachers. They're all in a committee I wasn't a part of, to do their planning. I was having fun chatting with them. I get to my classroom and there's paper and pencils on the floor. So I start picking that up. And before I even get my coat hung up on my hook, the bell rang to start the day. And I hadn't even started doing my job yet. What is it that you are doing so much of that you're not even really able to focus on your job? There's two things now. After that moment, I realized there's two things that I really wanted to highlight with everything that I do. Number one, it either has to help the students learn, and there's all different ways that this happens in school, as we know, need to benefit the students in some way. Or two, it needs to help me be my best teacher self. Those are the two main goals that I have prioritized now leading into these four things that I'm going to be sharing with you. Now, let's start looking at classroom systems and routines to help us maximize that goal. In my classroom, I have a few things in place from the club that have really changed my classroom environment to be supportive, to really generate a strong sense of community, and to have me have great relationship with the students. First of all, everything in my room has a place. And if students need to know where something is, I try to inform them where it is at the start of the year. And then over time, I'll ask questions. They ask me where something is. I'm like, oh, do you remember? To try to get them to think about the different routines and how the room is laid out. So everything has a place. The other thing I started to add, which have been really fun, even the big kids like it, are classroom jobs. Is there a way in your class that you can get kids to do more? Have them apply for jobs. If you're picking up the papers and pencils, stop. If you are Cleaning all of the supplies after a science experiment, stop. If you're setting up or tearing down different stations and centers, stop. Kids love to do these things. You can assign that to them. I have students that help me out with my book wall where they're always keeping my books in order and they're looking at my clipboard. I have students that help with our textbooks and our binders. I have students that are paper passer outers, and even my big kids enjoy doing that. How can you add that to your classroom also to have routines and systems that keep people responsible for the workings of the classroom and frees you up to focus on the things that are even more important? The other thing I have are bell ringers on a daily basis. The students have something to do when they get to the room. It's something that enhances my subject area, but takes little to no prep and little to no grading. My math coworker has online fact fluency that the students will practice that she can do a quick grade on at the end of the month. My social studies coworker has websites that she will post that the students will go to, and they fill out a paper reflection where they'll respond to different prompts about that website, what they're supposed to look around for history. In my classroom, I have anything from cursive handwriting to journal prompts and grammar practice or whatever it is that our skill is of that week that I can find simply and put to them online or in paper format. So I've got those really cool bell ringers going. Additionally, to have these systems in place, I feel it's important to have a similar structure to each of your units, the beginning and middle and end. Then the students will practice and understand the different expectations that you have throughout your units. They like knowing what's coming up next. They like anticipating the next thing. They like looking forward to the next step. So, with these systems and routines in place, you can add the next part that I find so helpful. And this is mega style batch planning. During COVID, it was, of course, very unfortunate that all of the teachers around the country and around the world had so many extra expectations on us. For our school, we had to have 4 weeks worth of instruction printed and ready to go, both on paper and digitally, for 4 week pickup and drop off dates. So I'd have to have everything ready to go, and then I would get it all back after 4 weeks and grade it and have everything ready to go and back and forth. Then those were supplemented with online video lessons as well as other digital materials throughout the unit. It was rough, but I learned one thing, and it was how much nicer it was to not have to fight with the copy machine every single day. It eliminated the daily scramble of what I'm going to be teaching next. By knowing what the students had available to them, I simply had to go to the next spot to see what was coming up that day for my video lessons. I now compile all of the students' work on day one. I only fight with the copy machine once. My son, who's my student, he realized this battle was going on, turned it into a comic book called The Attack of the Evil Copy Machine, snuck into the copy room, printed a bunch of copies without any trouble from the copy machine, naturally, and sold them at the basketball games for a profit, a part of which we gave to our local humane society. So it worked out to the benefit. But oh my goodness, it is so bad, me and that copy machine. Now I only have to fight with it at the start of the unit, not every single day. So by giving the students everything they need on day one, you're going to want to have, when we're looping back now to the routines and systems we talked about earlier, what is your system that works out well in your classroom? For me, in order for the kids to have everything on day one, I use a binder system, a 1 inch binder system, where they have a section for all of our work for that unit. They also have a section for journaling and whatever else works for my subject area. My science coworker, they have an online textbook program. And then also there is a print workbook, physical workbook that the students have, and a spiral notebook where they take their daily notes. What can that look like in your classroom? So from day one to the last day, your students have everything they need as part of your system and routine. Then you know that everything is ready to go. Now we're going to be a little bit thinking about, though, okay, yeah, but what are my lessons? How am I supposed to differentiate? What are my formative assessments, my summative assessments, my interactive activities, the technology standard? And don't forget to make everything project based. There are so many things we're expected to do with our standards and with our units, but there is a way that you can do this, and all you have to do is follow the directions. It might not be the most popular opinion in education right now, but when you have multiple things that you are preparing each day, it is okay to rely on pre built lessons. That might be a textbook program, that might be teachers pay teachers, or some other prepared delivery of lessons for your students. It's unreasonable to put together everything on our own when we have teams of professionals that have designed everything to hit our different standards. You don't have to use it all, but knowing that it's there, you can rest easy the day before because your lessons are ready to rock. And all you got to do is add your own glitter and love. Going a little blast from the past again here. Early on, when I first started, our school was kind of in a flux with their different curriculums. So I had a list of novels and stories, so kind of icky history books. And I was also teaching, so I was teaching ELA and social studies for a little while. I'm a social studies teacher, so I didn't know what to teach. I didn't have any, things ready to go. So I go on Google. Google sends me to Teachers Pay Teachers. Teachers Pay Teachers tells me to teach a population density standard. There was a unit ready to go about population density in China. It was a 2-week unit for $7. I printed it all off. I gave the kids all their supplies on day one, and we had so much fun. It was my first experience with a pre-built program, and it included all the things I need. Let me make sure I get them here. It had the anticipatory set, the video studies, the paired text, history and facts, cross-curricular explorations, formative and summative assessments throughout, plus a final digital interactive project. We had so much fun. And because I'm not a social studies teacher, this was all new information to me. The exploration side of it was great. So I was naturally able to put in my own personality while I was teaching a really cool unit. Using the tools that you have available to you, whether it's a textbook program or some other source of lessons, if it's all delivered on day one, your lessons and your materials are ready to go, then you get to kick back and really lean into the things that make you an excellent teacher. Think back to a teacher that you had, maybe at about the same grade level, maybe the same subject that was just epic. For me, it was amazing teacher in middle school for math. And we all had responsibilities when we got there. They would change, on this like almost like a chore chart, but we were older. So she had called it something different, and she was teaching lessons from, it wasn't the best technology. It was the light bulb under the with the mirror thing, and it would project up on the screen, and she had transparencies on a roller. But she would teach the lesson, she would interact with us throughout the lessons, and she was kind and she was motivating. And I remember she was one of the few teachers that I can remember genuinely laughing and enjoying her time with us. And now I know why. It's because she had systems, she had routines, and then she relied on a program. So then she was able to do things like sprinkle in her own joy, love, and glitter and humor, which made us really enjoy the learning process. With the mega batch planning, using the tools and resources that you have available to you, we're going to add the number one thing now that led to the most time saving opportunities I could find, as well as enhancing student learning drastically. This is self grading and self analysis. I stumbled on it somewhat accidentally. My son had come home one week with a really great report card, and I'd worked late, so I was home to tuck him in. I was tucking him in, and I said, "Baby, you did so good. Like, I was so proud of you." And he looked at me and he said, "You are? I didn't know you were proud of me." And that hurt a lot, and it's still hard to think about. I wanted so badly to be a good mother, but I also wanted to be a good teacher, and I didn't know how to do both really well. So that week, my students had 100-question test that I need. I didn't know how I was going to find time to grade it. It was one of those tests with all different things you had to do on the problems. So on a whim, I gave them each back their tests. I handed out red pens. I put up on the projector. I warned them no funny business or there was going to be consequences. And we went section by section on this test. But we talked about them. And it was really neat to have that back and forth. Oh, I can see how you might have gotten, that one wrong. This is why. Then I got thinking, oh my gosh, if we had had this interactive opportunity throughout the whole unit, their learning would have been so massive that maybe they would have done even better on this test. So I started employing more things like that. So more self analysis, more modeling, more demonstrations, and more examples of excellence throughout the whole unit. Then I got to offer challenges throughout the unit. So as I've built on the self-analysis that started with simple self-grading, my students' learning has gone through the roof. Their motivation is higher than ever. Their willingness to try is much higher too, because I figured out that if you give them extra points for making revisions when we have that display, they do them. And even though they're doing it for the extra points, the learning is taking place as well. Self-grading and self-analysis, the research shows that it is so much more effective than teacher feedback alone. But because I'm a part of it, it's this loop where they're thinking, they're generating their feedback, and I'm helping to guide it. And it's really neat to watch the process unfold. So not only has it really helped out their learning, it has saved me tons of time and energy, and I've really enjoyed it. Finally, to put a little frosting on the cake, we're going to add a super, super simplified grading system. In the club resources, there's a lot of talk about grading and how to save time. I implemented all of them. They are wonderful, just wonderful. My favorite one has been using a single point rubric or a 4 point. There's all different names for it, and I ended up landing on a 10-point system where I can subjectively look at each activity that the students have done to enter a grade in my online gradebook. So with the systems and routines, I did super mega batch planning that they have all from day one. We're doing self-analysis throughout. I'm collecting some grades during the unit to make sure that everybody's staying on top of things and meeting my requirements. And at the end, I collect that unit back and I go into the gradebook and subjectively grade activity by activity how they did on the different objectives and standards. It works out really well across the board, and that is how I now grade everything. Try to decide on a super simplified single point rubric with words to explain how the students are doing on your objectives. And it's going to save you so much time, and you're going to have a really great snapshot on how well your students are performing. The students understand that simplified scale, families understand that scale, and it works out really well with different categories on our online gradebook systems. For a quick recap of these four primary things, first of all, we're looking at classroom systems and routines that generate relationships and classroom community. What does that look like in your classroom? Mega batch planning. I mean, who doesn't want to skip the copy room? I don't go in there very often at all anymore because they do it all at once and it's ready to rock. So mega batch planning, deliver it all on day one and have a system for your students to have those materials in place. We're also looking at self-analysis and self-grading throughout the unit and having a simplified gradebook system. The research is outstanding, and I look forward to hearing from you on how it all goes. It's all there for you in the club resources. Give it a try. My name is June, and I am so blessed to have worked with you today. Thank you for spending your time with 40-Hour Teacher Work Week. Thank you for spending your time with me, learning how to balance multiple preps. And if you have any questions about the different stuff that we've learned today, find me on socials, ask me questions. I can help you out with different resources and different things that you might be wondering about these topics that we talked about today. And I want to leave you with one more thing that was so vital to me early on in my teaching career. And I want you to know that it is possible to have a thriving career and an incredibly joyful personal life. All things are possible. Again, my name is June, and thank you so much for the opportunity to work with you today.